Hi, it's Ashley Bradford doing our weekly live Skype video here. I'm at SkypeAdultPianoLessons.com, and today we're going to talk a little bit about what I call the three pillars: sound, feel, and look. Last video we were discussing what we were going to think about as we were playing, and we talked about how we need to think about something musical, and then we need to really make a choice, make a decision about what we are going to think about as we're working. And I promised that we would next discuss some options, some useful options for things to think about. So that's where these three pillars, sound, feel, and look, come in. We ultimately are seeking to understand more intimately and with more context, understand what we're doing musically. And that really falls into three categories: what we're hearing, what we're feeling, and what we are seeing. So first of all, let me go into a little more detail about what I mean for each category. Fundamentally, music is sound. So sound is absolutely the fundamental pillar. What are we hearing? It's pretty obvious. It's pretty foundational. And music is acquired as a language, and that sound, hearing the language, is very, very important to getting any aspect of it. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to hear something musically. And so we can ask a lot of that would be the sound pillar, and we can ask a lot of questions about that sound that we've heard as we explore and as we think about that sound within the sound pillar. So activities within the sound pillar. We could think about the way that the melody sounds. We could think about the way the harmony sounds. We could think about the way that the rhythm sounds, the pulse sounds, the beat sounds. We get more specific with the chord. Are we hearing a primary triad? Are we hearing a tonic? Are we hearing a dominant, subdominant? Are we hearing a secondary triad? Are we hearing an inversion of a triad? How about do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti? What can we discover that we're hearing with the melody in that sound pillar? Ascending, descending, seconds, thirds, stacks, different intervals, etc., etc. Okay, so there's a lot there, but that's giving you an example of what I'm talking about as far as exploring the sound pillar. Feel pillar. That is unique to each individual instrument, obviously, because we have to really explore what does this feel like on the piano, or what does this feel like in our voice if we're studying voice, or what does this feel like, how would we play this on a guitar, this sound on a guitar, or how would we make this sound on a violin versus making this sound on a French horn. Okay, so that's all about the feel. So on the piano, we could say, if we've just identified something in the sound pillar, and then we say, what does that sound feel like when I go to play it on the piano? Well, it depends upon what key you're playing in, right? So you pick a key, or you use the key that you see in front of you, whatever. But you say, all right, what is that sound going to feel like if I'm in the key of E major? What does that sound feel like if I'm in the key of B flat minor? And again, lots of different kinds of sounds, whether we're talking about do, re, mi, whether we're talking about rhythms, whether we're talking about triads. But that's the feel, is what is that going to feel like on the piano? So if you're talking about an E flat major triad, if you hear a tonic triad and you're in the key of E flat major, then the feel would be, what is in that tonic triad feel like in the key of E flat major? If I'm in root position, I have a black key and a white key and a black key, so I feel that. But then we can get really a lot more specific, right? Because we really have to make sure that we're feeling the black key that's on the top of the set of 2 black keys, so we can get quite specific. And then we want to make sure that our middle key is the white key that is positioned within this set of 3 black keys. And then we say, well, the top of that tonic triad in E flat major is a black key. And it's the black key that's at the top of the set of 3 black keys. So you see how much there is to what does this feel like, and to how much there is to explore there. And we say, oh, I went someplace different than I wanted to go. I played the wrong note. There's so much to going where you really want to go. So the more that you can explore that, and the more that you can really know the specifics of the feel, the better. The more time that you can spend just thinking about the feel, the better. And maybe not even totally playing, right? Just setting your hands and feeling, then taking your hands off again and then setting them again. If I'm in the key of D major and I hear a tonic triad, what does that feel like in D major? And you analyze and you think and you explore. Well, the bottom is a D, and it's going to be, if I'm in root position, and it's going to be the white key in between 2 black keys. The middle of that tonic triad in D major is going to feel like a black key, and it's going to be the first black key of the 3 black keys. The top of that tonic triad in D major in root position is a white key. And it's the white key that's the second of the 2 in the middle of the 3 black keys. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of stuff that I'm saying there that you got to take the time to think through and to find and to analyze, to describe about the feel. So that's an example of working within the feel pillar. Stuff to think about. The look pillar. That's auxiliary. That's after the fact. Like in any language, we write it down, that's after the fact. That doesn't create the language. The language, the words were already there. The sounds were already there. So when we work with the look pillar, we're talking about, personally, when I'm talking about the look pillar, I'm talking about what would that sound look like on the lines and spaces. What would this sound look like if I saw it in front of me in a piece of sheet music? So first we've heard a sound and we've explored and really thought through so much in that sound pillar. Then we've felt that sound and we felt it on the piano. And we've explored that feel, black key versus white keys, and we've done so much with that. And then we say, well, ultimately, if somebody's going to compose something and they're going to put it on sheet music, then they got to put this up here on lines and spaces. So how is that going to happen, and what would that look like then if we saw it on lines and spaces? So that's the look pillar. And so if we were discussing that particular example that I was just giving with the tonic triad in root position, it's going to look, I describe it like a stack. It's going to look like all spaces or all lines, depending upon what key we're in, what staff we're on, which lines and spaces. But we can make these observations as we're working within the look pillar. Oh, it's a tonic stack, and it's in root position. So it's going to look in front of me like a stack of spaces or a stack of lines. There's a lot more that we can explore there in the look pillar. So take some time to do that. So there's our 3 pillars, something to think about this week and to explore. Explore for yourself as you're working this week. Explore your sound pillar. What am I hearing? Don't just randomly play things. What am I hearing in the sound pillar? How can I describe that? How can I talk about that? How can I compare that to something else that I heard? Compare and contrast. What I heard before, what I heard after it. Second, feel. Okay, what does that sound feel like when I play it on piano? It depends upon what key I'm in. What would that sound feel like in E flat major versus in F major versus in B flat minor? Black keys, white keys, finger numbers. Exploring the feel of that sound in all various ways. And then finally, the look. What would this sound look like if I was going to go to transcribe it, if I'm going to go to put it on lines and spaces, if I'm reading through music in front of me? What does this sound look like when I see it there on the lines and spaces? And if we're using the example of a tonic stack, root position chord, it's going to look like a stack of lines or a stack of spaces. And you can talk about that and describe that and observe and explore. Compare, contrast. Stacks to splits to lifts to these other things that we'll talk about in the future. So there you go. Happy playing this week. Again, I'm Ashley Bradford at SkypeAdultPianoLessons.com. We have great group of adult learners from all over the world that I teach weekly one-on-one in private Skype lessons. But I do this about 10 minutes a week, this little series to give tips and tricks as we go along. So that's some things to think about this week. What am I hearing? How does it feel? What does it look like on the lines and spaces? Definitely continue to make comments, continue to send me messages and suggestions. It's really wonderful to hear from you all. And we're getting a really fun community going. So we will see you next Monday. And in the meantime, watch as many times as you want. And hello also to those that maybe can't catch it live, but can grab it during the week. So thanks. We'll see you next week.